What is the Doomsday Plane? It's not designed to prevent disaster. It's designed for after everything else fails. This aircraft does not exist for travel. It exists for continuity. When cities fail, when systems collapse, this plane is designed to remain. It is a flying command center, built to operate when the ground is assumed lost. While everything else goes silent, this aircraft stays connected. It doesn't carry civilians. It doesn't carry soldiers. It carries decisions. Decisions meant to outlive cities. This plane assumes the worst has already happened and plans for what comes next. So the real question isn't what this plane is. It's why it exists at all. If you want the full story, subscribe. Because what comes next is more uncomfortable. This was only the beginning. Why does this plane only fly when leaders are afraid? Because it is not part of normal life. Normal planes follow schedules. This one does not. It flies only when risk replaces routine, when conversations stop being hypothetical, and plans become immediate. This aircraft is launched when the future feels unstable, when leaders believe the ground may not remain secure. It is not a response to war. It is a response to uncertainty. When communication becomes fragile, this plane is meant to survive. It carries leadership away from predictable targets, not to escape fear, but to operate inside it. This flight is a signal that leaders believe something could happen, and that waiting on the ground is no longer an option. This plane doesn't react to events. It reacts to belief, and belief moves faster than war. The world wasn't supposed to know about this plane. For years, its existence stayed quiet, hidden behind layers of secrecy. During a time when fear shaped every decision, the world was split, and nuclear war felt possible at any moment. Governments prepared for the unthinkable. And then something unusual was seen. A plane unlike any other. It wasn't announced, but questions began to spread. People realized it wasn't built for passengers, and it wasn't built for war. It was built to command, to stay connected when everything else failed. That's when the meaning became clear. This plane wasn't about survival. It was about control. And once people understood that, the fear shifted. Because this meant leaders were planning beyond disaster, and the world realized it wasn't meant to follow them. This plane never sleeps, because the threat never does. Nuclear danger doesn't follow schedules, so this aircraft is kept in constant readiness. Crews rotate, systems stay on. Every component is checked as if launch could happen at any moment. Because in a real crisis, the minutes are already too late. This plane is designed to move before confirmation, before damage is visible, before anyone knows for sure. That's why readiness is continuous, not because war is certain, but because hesitation is fatal. This aircraft is treated like a living system. It never powers down, because once it's needed, it's already too late to prepare. This plane stays awake, so leadership doesn't have to. And that tells you everything about how serious the threat is. There is one question almost no one asks, not about how this plane flies, or how fast it can move. The real question is much quieter. If nuclear war ends everything, why plan for what comes after? This plane is not designed to stop disaster. It's designed to operate beyond it. That means leaders assume something survives. Not cities, not infrastructure, but command. This plane exists because leadership expects to continue. even when the world does not. That's the part no one talks about. Preparation reveals belief, and belief is more honest than speeches. This plane answers a question most people never think to ask. If this kind of history matters to you, like and subscribe. And tell me, what do you think they're preparing for? Because this was only the beginning. This plane was not born from imagination. It was born from fear. During the Cold War, the world lived under permanent threat. For the first time in history, war meant total destruction. No one could win, and everyone knew it. So leaders began planning for the unthinkable. They built shelters, they hardened cities, and then they realized something. If nuclear war happened, the ground would be the first thing lost. Command would disappear, and without command, nothing follows. That's when the logic changed. If the ground couldn't survive, leadership would have to leave it. That fear created this plane, not to win a war, but to stay in control after it begins. For a long time, leaders believed bunkers were enough. Deep underground, reinforced, protected from the outside world, then nuclear weapons changed the math. Blast pressure didn't stop at the surface, and neither did disruption. Bunkers rely on connections, and those connections became targets. Even if leaders survived, they would be blind. Nuclear war doesn't just destroy buildings, it destroys coordination. A bunker without communication is just a tomb. That's when planners reached a conclusion. Staying underground was no longer survival, it was isolation. Command had to move, and the sky became the only place left. That realization killed the bunker age. In nuclear strategy, survival starts with timing, not strength, not defense. The first strike is designed to erase command, to remove the ability to respond. If leadership is gone, the war is already decided. That's why survival means leaving early, before confirmation, before certainty, because waiting is the risk. Once missiles are visible, it's already too late. Surviving the first strike doesn't mean avoiding damage. It means preserving control. As long as orders can be given, the system continues. That's the logic. Speed over certainty, movement over hesitation. That logic pushed command into the sky. Airborne command didn't start perfectly. It started as an experiment, a question, not a solution. Early aircraft weren't designed to command anything. They carried people, but barely carried information. Communication was fragile. So was stability. Every flight exposed new problems, power limits, signal interference, and human endurance. Most of these early platforms failed, but failure taught something important. Command could move, and mobility changed the equation. Being airborne wasn't safer. It was harder to remove. That lesson reshaped strategy. From that point on, flying command stopped being optional. At first, wars targeted armies, then cities, then infrastructure. But nuclear weapons changed the logic again. Because wars don't end when buildings fall. They end when decisions stop. And decisions come from people, leaders. Military strategy adapted. Remove the head, and the body collapses. Bunkers became targets. Fixed locations became liabilities. So leadership had to move, to stay unpredictable, to stay unreachable. This wasn't about escape. It was about continuity. And once leaders became the target, the sky became the safest place to lead from. If you value this kind of history, like and subscribe. And tell me, when did war stop targeting armies? and start targeting decisions. Because Act 3 changes everything. This plane doesn't carry weapons, and that's what makes it dangerous. There are no missiles on board, no bombs, no guns, because this aircraft doesn't fight wars. It authorizes them. This plane carries authority, the power to give orders, and the ability to make them irreversible. Every weapon in the system answers to this place. It's not the other way around. In modern war, the deadliest thing isn't a weapon, it's a decision. This plane exists to protect that ability, to keep command alive, permission to act. That's more powerful than any bomb. And that's why this aircraft must survive, because without it, nothing else matters. After nuclear war, almost everything stops working. Power grids fail, networks collapse, and most technology goes quiet. But not everything. This plane is built around one priority: communication, redundant systems, different frequencies, designed to survive disruption, even electromagnetic shock. These buttons aren't for convenience. They exist so orders can still move, because war doesn't end with the blast. It continues with decisions. Silence is failure. This plane exists to prevent that. So even after everything else stops, the system keeps moving. That's what these buttons protect. When command leaves the ground, it doesn't lose control, it concentrates it. Orders don't move randomly, they move down a chain, each step verified, each command authenticated. This isn't chaos, it's discipline under pressure. If one path fails, another takes over. Orders don't depend on one city or one building. They depend on structure, and structure survives movement. That's how orders travel, even when the ground is silent. War doesn't stop without orders. It stops when command disappears. That's why this plane stays airborne and why the sky became the center of war. An EMP is designed to blind technology, to turn systems off, to erase coordination. It doesn't destroy machines. It overwhelms them. This aircraft was built with that in mind. Critical systems are protected, separated, and duplicated, so a single surge can't shut everything down. This isn't invincibility, it's survivability. EMP turns complexity against itself. This plane is built to stay simple where it matters, especially communication. Because silence is failure. This aircraft is designed to speak when everything else goes quiet. That's why EMP isn't enough, because this plane is built for the moment after shock. This plane is not for everyone. It never was. Selection is deliberate. The people on board aren't chosen for strength or combat skill. They're chosen for authority. Because survival alone isn't the goal, continuity is. Every seat has a reason. Every absence does too. These people are chosen to decide, not to survive personally, but to lead what remains. They represent functions, not individuals. If one fails, the role continues. This isn't about saving lives, it's about saving command. That's who this plane is built for. If you're here for serious history, like, comment, and subscribe. Because what happens next already has. On September 11th, this plane didn't stay on the ground. It took off. Not as a drill, and not as routine. On that day, the sky itself became uncertain. Civilian air traffic was grounded. This one was not. Because leadership could not stay in fixed locations. Targets were unknown, and information was incomplete, so continuity moved into the air. This was not about retaliation. It was about maintaining command. For hours, waiting for clarity. That's when its real purpose became visible. This plane doesn't launch when war begins. It launches when control is at risk. And that day, it was. This was the first time many people realized it was real. 9/11 wasn't the only time this plane was activated. It appears during moments of nuclear tension, when words start carrying weight, and miscalculation becomes possible. These moments don't look dramatic, they look quiet. That's when the plane moves, not because war has started, but because it might. Nuclear tension compresses time. Leaders don't wait for confirmation, they wait for options. This aircraft preserves them, the most dangerous phase of any crisis, before anyone knows how it ends. That's why this plane doesn't wait for war. It waits for instability, and it stays airborne until the risk passes. That pattern tells you everything. This plane doesn't only appear during war. It appears during uncertainty. When systems are stressed, pandemics, crashes, sudden instability, moments when information is incomplete and decisions must still be made. This aircraft is a precaution, not a reaction. It's activated before answers exist. Global crises compress timelines. Delay becomes dangerous. So leadership moves early to preserve continuity. The common factor isn't conflict, it's uncertainty. This plane exists for moments like that, when no one knows what comes next, and leaders can't afford to wait. That's why it keeps appearing, because uncertainty is the real trigger. Not every flight of this plane makes the news. Most of them don't. There are no press releases, no announcements, and no explanations. Because visibility isn't the goal. Stability is. These flights are designed to blend in, to look unremarkable. Silence avoids questions, and questions create panic, so movement stays discreet. That's intentional. Power doesn't need attention, it needs continuity. That's why most people never notice, and why that's the point. The quiet flights matter most. They keep order intact, and silence is how power stays invisible. When this plane takes off, it doesn't always go anywhere. Sometimes it just circles, not because it's lost, and not because of fuel. It circles because it's waiting for confirmation, for clarity, for information to settle. Circling keeps options open. Landing is a commitment, so is moving forward. Waiting preserves control. As long as it stays airborne, leadership stays unreachable. Movement isn't always action. Sometimes it's restraint. That's what the circling means. If this kind of thinking matters to you, like the video and subscribe. What do you think they're waiting for? Because Act 5 is where it gets uncomfortable. This plane sends a message, not to enemies, but to us. It means leaders expect the worst, not because disaster is guaranteed, but because it's possible. Preparation reveals belief, and belief drives action. This plane isn't launched for comfort. It's launched for continuity. When leaders leave the ground, they're admitting something, that the situation could escalate, and that waiting is more dangerous than acting. This isn't fear, it's expectation of how bad things could become, and choosing not to be on the ground when they do. That's what this plane really tells you. You'll never hear an official announcement about this plane, not because it's unimportant, but because it's too important. Public explanations create questions, and questions create panic. Panic destabilizes systems. This plane exists to stabilize them, so its purpose stays vague, defined just enough to avoid alarm. Clarity is dangerous during crisis. Ambiguity keeps order. This silence isn't secrecy for secrecy's sake. It's risk management. Because once people understand why, they start asking when. And timing is what governments protect most. That's why the purpose stays unspoken, because silence keeps systems intact. This plane raises an uncomfortable question. Is it meant to prevent war, or to survive it? On one side, it's a deterrent, a message that leadership cannot be removed, that even the worst attack won't stop decisions. That message discourages escalation. But on the other side, it suggests something else, that leaders believe war might happen anyway, and that the ground may not survive it. Preparing to continue after disaster isn't confidence, it's acceptance. So the plane sits between two truths: strength and fear, deterrence and doubt. And that tension is the point. This plane is built with a simple assumption that cities may not survive, not because they matter less, but because they're fragile. Modern cities depend on networks, power, water, communication. This aircraft does not. It carries its own environment, its own power, and its own timeline. In a large-scale disaster, mobility outlasts infrastructure. That's why this plane is prioritized, not as a symbol, but as a system designed to last longer than places. This isn't optimism, it's preparation. And that's a hard thing to accept. There's one question all of this leads to, not about the plane itself, but about the people who use it. This aircraft exists for one reason: to function after disaster. Which means leaders believe something could happen. Bad enough to leave the ground, not panic. Preparation reveals belief. So the real question isn't what this plane can do. It's what would scare leaders enough to use it. Because they don't launch it lightly. They launch it when they expect the worst. So ask yourself, if this plane is in the air, what are they afraid of? If you stayed to the end, you're here for serious thinking. Like the video, subscribe, and tell me, what do you think they're preparing for? This is where the conversation begins.